What did you think you were into in the bedroom until you tried it? Going down on a guy. I've practiced with toys and can do it like a champ on my own, but as soon as he starts vigorously face-fricking me like I always thought I'd like, it's like 3 thrusts and my gag reflex goes, nope, nope, nope. Doing the deed in front of a bunch of people. My ex and I were with 2 friends at a bar and it was almost last call. I wasn't ready to call it a night, and being drunk, I jokingly threw out the idea of going to this swingers club that I'd heard of. My girlfriend and her friends were surprisingly into the idea. So we go to this club and I thought it would be a lot of couples. Ended up being about 60 dudes, 2 or 3 girls, and my girlfriend and her friends, and myself. The club was actually pretty freaking cool. My girlfriend and I went in a private room and went at it, then we went to a room with a ton of windows. Literally every person in the club watched my girlfriend and I go at it, along with her friends just sitting and watching. I thought it was weird as frick and kind of gross, but my girlfriend and her friends were really into it and she always asked to go back. Pretty much anything that I've seen in the special interests section of the adult flick store. I realized that I'm actually a pretty vanilla guy who just really enjoys watching weird crap once in a while. I thought I had a thing for whips. I enjoyed a whipping without a safe word and I regretted it right away. Never do anything like that without a safe word. Also, if you're trying to come up with one, what my wife and I use is a reference to a meme that we can't think about without laughing. 10 out of 10, ends things pretty well without being a total bummer. Kind of like this, I think I'm not into extreme spontaneous fun or doing the deed while asleep. My girlfriend woke me in the middle of the night because she wanted to do the deed. I had to work overtime the whole week, it was a Wednesday and all I wanted was going back to Dreamland. I said yes and she climbed on top of me. I fell asleep while doing it, but seemed to have stayed hard. The next morning the whole bed was a mess, including her and me, and she slept like a stone. We had bruises and were covered in sticky stuff. I felt like Jim Carrey in Me, Myself and Irene. Completely dehydrated and everything hurt. I have no memory of anything that happened. Later that day, my girlfriend was the happiest and kindest person in the whole world and smiled the whole week. I wish I knew what happened that night. And no, it wasn't the unspeakable act. She had my blessing to proceed in general. When I asked her, she said she used me to feel free and powerful and then she smiled. She jokes that I'm better in my sleep than her 2 exes were awake. So, no details. That is one of the strangest and most unique ones that I've read so far, and I have so many questions. Too bad that it doesn't actually sound like fun for the guy. Getting choked out. I'm a guy. I somehow thought that busting a nut while on the verge of passing out would lead to a military-grade explosion. My girlfriend was skeptical but humored me. Long story short, getting choked out ain't it, chief. I always thought I'd enjoy guys being more dominant and forceful until when I was in my teens I was sitting in an overgrown riverbank, facing forward with my boyfriend sitting behind me, his legs either side of mine. Suddenly he decided to choke me from behind without asking, and when I freaked his excuse was that he wanted to test if I was into that kind of thing. If that hadn't happened I might have enjoyed it in a consensual manner, but that one experience was so terrifying I'd never be down for trying it again under any circumstances. I thought that I was into girls that scratched and bit you. I mean, I'm still into girls that bite, but I was dating a girl in high school and she was big into scratching. I really should have seen the signs that she wasn't going to be gentle. She was just this tiny, cute girl. I was a half-foot taller, bigger, and tough. No way she could hurt me, right? Nope, dead wrong. I like to think I have a pretty high pain threshold, but she enjoyed hurting me. She had scratched me up hard when we were making out. She'd get carried away, and I didn't want to seem like a wuss, so I didn't say anything about it. My back looked like I'd been attacked by a raccoon. I got carried away once. I knew I was scratching him, but nothing serious, or so I thought. When we were finished, he sat at the edge of the bed, and I saw his back. Dear Lord, it was completely scratched and red. How did I even reach all those spots? I was surprised and blurted out, "Oh God, your back!" But he just shrugged and said, "Yeah, I figured." Pegging. I thought I was super into it, and my ex loved it when I played with his butt anyway. Just grabbing it, nothing inside, so he bought me what we'll call a frontal attachment. Well, I wanted to warm him up first so I didn't tear his butt apart, but the second I spread his cheeks, I got a whiff of his butt and almost spewed all over him. Doing the deed in the shower. I slipped and made us both fall. The water washes out the lubricant fluids too. Isn't that nice?
I'd love to see the opposite quote. What didn't you think you were into until you tried it?
Female here, riding my male partner like a real champ. It felt amazing, I was feeling a little extra hot and I told him to slap me across the face. He did, and I instantly burst into tears. I had a girl kind of start going down on me, then she bit the side of my stomach, hard, like she was going to try and taste my liver. Shriveled up like a sack of dimes and shoved her off. Trying this kind of thing without discussion is bad practice, but pain is especially bad. Swinging and cucking. Trying to give some guy's wife the dipstick while he watches in the corner feeding the geese is a lot more stress-inducing than pleasurable.
Feeding the geese? How have I never heard this one before?
I would like to thank Urban Dictionary for helping me understand 80% of these posts. Having a girl grind on me. My member doesn't bend that many angles very comfortably, thank you. Standing and carrying the person while doing the deed. I could do it and I'm in pretty good shape, but I wouldn't exactly say it was enjoyable for either of us. I still want to try Amazon, but I think I'd rather just have cowgirl. I haven't seen open relationships posted yet, but that was a humbling experience. My ex and I decided to explore a bit and set up some profiles on Plenty of Fish and FetLife. I figured since we were both looking for hookup partners, we'd match and find a couple that would be compatible. Fricking nope. Like 3 minutes after our profiles went up, there was an eggplant explosion in her email inbox. It was like watching Niagara Falls, just with non-stop wang pictures. I'm not gay, but some of those dudes were chiseled and cute as frick. Like even I knew I was outclassed. I had like 2 messages and none turned into anything. We broke up shortly afterwards, compatibility being an issue. Being tied up. I like it when my partner is tied, but I can't be. Just not as much of a turn-on as I thought it would be. For some reason, foot stimulation always seemed hot, but in all my experiences none of them were good, and the risk of accidentally being kicked in the balls stressed me out. I thought I had a foot thing until I actually tried playing with my girlfriend's feet. Turns out I just like how pretty feet look, from a distance.
This is how I feel about people in general.
Same. I'm gay, but I really appreciate female beauty. That's why I was sure I was bisexual until I was doing the deed with this beautiful girl, thinking about guys trying to finish. Gotta appreciate your dedication to the job that you had already begun there, mate. One time, years ago, I was doing the deed with a friend and he was close to finishing and he asked if he could call me mummy. The guy was full on inside of me. I wasn't going to say no even though I wasn't into it, so I played along to get the job done. In the 5 years since then, it has been this nagging thought in the back of my head that I want someone to call me mummy. I'm so embarrassed by it that I've never even brought it up, even though we do plenty of new, interesting stuff and it would totally be okay to ask. Earlier this year, I finally told my partner and went immediately bright red. He was into it and played along with enthusiasm, and I gotta tell you, I'm still not into it. I think it just got stuck in my head because it was so naughty and taboo, but in real life, it's just not hot. Since then, I've shoved the cat back into the bag and we've sworn never to discuss it again. I still have that little voice in my head saying to be a good boy and finish in mummy's hoo-ha, but now I just ignore it. Burning. I had an ex who was really into burning with candle wax. Not the massage candles, legit candle wax. Made a huge mess and burned a lot. I was fine with this and even had a lot of fun. The problem was, she was a sadomasochist who loved causing pain. I'm okay with this, but it led to one time where she poured candle wax over me while I was tied up. I have chest hair. This was all well and good at the time, and I didn't even mind that my hair would have to be ripped out later. In her excitement, she also decided it would be appropriate to put a freshly snuffed match against my frenulum. I would avoid this, and I do not recommend it. Since then, I'm not enticed or aroused by candle wax anymore. Wait, frenulum as in on your pee-pee? Yes, the little fleshy bridge that connects the underside of the head to the shaft. Jesus fricking Christ. What in the crispy Kentucky Fried Frick? Ice cream. She got me nice and hard and then laid out scoops of ice cream around my tower of power. Froze my eggplant and then started melting down my butt crack, and pretty soon my butt was sticky. She tried her best to lick everything up, but that didn't make things any better. Worse was that it got on the bed sheets and we had to clean everything, which took up all of our day. Nobody got to finish that day. Hell, I'm here looking for new ideas. I thought I'd be into dominating type play. I liked the idea of being called names like whore or B-word until my husband called me that, consensually, and I cried. One time my husband was talking nasty to me while we did the deed and he called me a whore and I instantly burst into tears. Haha. I love being called the normal nasty stuff, like a dirty girl and a whore, but once my ex called me a pig and that's when I learned my limit. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below, and if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out Easy Mode, also linked below, and subscribe. Being slapped and called names and choked. I guess roughly doing the deed in general. I did it with this one guy who was super into it, and he would choke me way too hard and slap me across the face. Kept calling me a fricking B-word and that I was nothing more than a whore and a dirty girl. He also spat on me during the deed. I realized that I wasn't into it at all and I cut things off. With my current partner though, he likes to choke me but he doesn't apply pressure, just wraps his hands around my neck, and he says things like, "You like that, you dirty girl." And if I'm in the right mood, he only does it if I give him the go-ahead. I do quite enjoy it. P. I found a guy who was into it and I spent years fantasizing about it. Spent about a month fricking around with him and involving pee in various ways. Turns out, it's just messy. I didn't dislike it, but I have no interest in doing it again. I still watch it in adult flicks though.
Previous time this question was asked, some guy said he loved the idea of being crapped on. He found a lady of the night who offered the service, booked a session, and they got down to it. He said that as soon as she started crapping on him, he realized he really didn't like being crapped on.
I'll bite and comment. Doing the deed outdoors. I absolutely loved that idea in fantasy. In reality, the beach is super cold and windy. Blankets are hard to keep on. Hobos walk up to you randomly even though you swear no one was around. Sand. Sand everywhere. Non-erotic walk back to the car. Disgruntled going home. Hopefully not a night killer. In the woods it's pleasant at first, but then the bug bites start. The cold nips your skin. Bark is rather rough and has ants. Feeling secluded yet not isolated, always wondering if someone will walk by. Splinters. Rocks that are pointy jabbing into random parts of your body trying to do positions. Wild animals around. Other than that, the other that I'd say is melon clamps. I thought they were more exciting than the painful they turned out to be. Kind of basic, but the daddy or little girl thing. I love being dominated, but my gosh, it felt so degrading and not in a good way. And creepy, acting like a ditzy child who needs approval to do everything. Not to insult anybody who's into it, but yeah, I realized it wasn't for me after all. I was super into the idea of whacking it while wearing a skirt, and when my girlfriend found out, she was kind of into the idea of me doing the deed with her while I wore a skirt because she was bisexual. Her words, not my assumption, but it didn't really work for either of us. Then again, I think we might not have been compatible or just inexperienced, because I also thought I didn't like girls going down on me until my next girlfriend did, and it was a revelation. Gangbang. Definitely not working out in my favor. Agreed. I didn't actively dislike it, but 4 dudes whacking the goose while watching you do the deed is a little strange. I was mostly shocked by the lightheartedness and jovial atmosphere. "Do you want to turn in her butt?" "Oh, sure, thanks, man."
"Absolutely, let me get out of the way."
When the whole thing was wrapping up, the chick was on her knees with everything getting ready to splooge into her face, and one guy almost blew it on my shoe, and I said something to the effect of, "Hey, watch the shoes, man," to which everyone, her included, started cracking up, just to further illustrate the jovial atmosphere. Well, after reading that, I can confirm what I already knew, that I have no desire to try it out. Also, the less of my friends' eggplants I see in my life, the better. Doing the deed with someone who was cheating on her boyfriend. We were friends with benefits before, but then she got a boyfriend. A few weeks later, she still contacted me. Going at her place, I thought it was hot, but then all I kept thinking about was him and how he was probably in love with her, and how crushed his heart would be if he knew. There's nothing fun or phantasmagorical about that, I thought. I had a panic attack, left, cut contact with her, and now I just feel dirty. Every bit deserved, though. Pegging and milking. It was fricking exhausting. I felt like, why haven't you splooged already? I'm bored. After an hour of licking, positions, thrusting, titillating, the taint, Crisco, blah blah blah, I felt blessed as a woman and I had a new respect for the endurance people had to get me off. Pee. Even if you're cool with it during the act, the second you get off you realize you're just covered in pee. And if you're like me, you try it again just to be sure and you want to bang your head into a wall because you can never be unpeed on. I don't know if it's the same per se because it's kind of mainstream, but 3-ways just aren't as fun as I thought. The pressure to make sure everyone was having a blast kind of ruined it for me. Don't want anybody to feel left out, you know? Doing the deed outdoors. I got a 2-inch splinter of wood shoved right up my butt. In the cheek, that is. Can confirm, ended up with half my leg covered in poison ivy. And no, dumb 17-year-old me didn't see any poison ivy around before the deed. Being called daddy. The first time doing the deed with this girl I met in a bar, she goes right into, "F me, daddy." I always thought it would be hot to hear, but nope. Instant eggplant kill. My mind immediately went to, oh crap, she might have some serious issues. Turns out I was right too. I thought I'd be into choking. I already liked to be lightly spanked and act like a bratty sub. I think it's funny to be annoying, so I just thought it would be a natural step in my kinks. Didn't like it one bit. Nothing bad really happened, no freak accident, just got turned off real quick. I once hooked up with a girl who said she liked to be choked. I was kind of a mild guy, but I was like, okay, if that's your thing. The moment I saw her eyes as I was grasping her neck, I thought, holy crap, she really likes that. And that turned me on like frick. Also, it's nice to be lightly choked when being treated yourself. See, on the one hand, it kind of upsets me because I really thought I'd like it because of what you described, and that sounds awesome. But alas, it just does nothing for me. Woman here, doing the deed while asleep. I'd go pantyless when sleeping out of comfort, but I also gave my boyfriend the go-ahead to frick me if he wanted. Didn't bother with foreplay, just his eggplant. I wasn't prepped and it didn't feel great. Another partner kissed my hot spot when he wanted it in the morning, whilst I was asleep, and it made a difference. Having a willing, of course, shall we say servant. I thought it would be hot as heck to have an undressed girl in the apartment following my every command. In the end though, it just felt awful. Instead of, suck my fricking member, B-word, it was, suck my member now, if you want to. Please? Easy, milk or pain stuff. I went through a bad breakup, went to pick myself up via sleeping around. Slept with a recently ex-pregnant girl who was into pain and leather and other stuff. That crap hurt and I was uncomfortable, and don't get me started on the milk, disgusting, and it got all over. Had a long cry after that one, I still gag when I think about it. I thought I was bi until I sucked a member and now I'm gay. Anime body pillow doesn't feel real enough. Who would have thought that? I thought I would like female domination, so my girlfriend tied me up and just started beating the crap out of me. She hit my wang with a whip and it started bleeding so bad I had to go to the emergency room. You can imagine how awkward that was. Not sure if this qualifies as a kink, but like many people I thought that bigger was better in the eggplant department. Then I slept with a few people who had big ones. 1. Ow. 2. Fricking ow. No thanks, not into it. Now I'm with a guy who fits me perfectly, in a physical sense, although we're compatible in other ways too, and doing the deed with them is the best. Not too big, not too small, just right. 15 years of marriage and I tell my silly husband he too has the perfect eggplant, and he still denies the compliment. Average-sized eggplant is the best eggplant. Period. I really thought I was into having someone pee on my face. Unfortunately, the angle was wrong and it went up my nose. Burned like heck and tasted awful. I'm really not into that anymore. Does anyone else here have an incredibly boring bedroom life and is just reading and listening to the responses for fun? I've had several times I'm so turned on I want to splooge and eat my own splooge. But once I actually get off, that desire disappears instantly. Once I tried it out of curiosity and a simple lick was enough to verify that it's not for me. I was in my early 20s and I thought I was into some more advanced stuff. I took to the internet and found a D couple through AFF who wanted a third, who was also a dom. I was feeling adventurous, so I agreed to play. I'd only had some vanilla stuff before, so what started happening was blowing my innocent mind. First off, this was a very attractive couple. The wife was hot. She started by laying across my lap with her butt in the air. I was whacking her butt. I'd never done this before. I just had no idea what I was doing. Then he put a leash on her and she's crawling to the back room on hands and knees. We get there and she crawls up onto the bench thing and he restrains her at the wrists and ankles. He brings out some floggers and he's showing me how to flog his wife. This is all super crazy and intense. He ends up aggressively doing it with her with my eggplant in her mouth. I'm 10-ply down there because I'm so nervous. He ends up finishing on their bed. It was a little awkward, but all in all an eye-opening experience. Turns out I enjoy some ropes and a little bit of rough play, but I'm not much of an aggressive dom. I had a massive public but discreet thing as a teenager. My first real girlfriend and I couldn't really get alone time to do the deed because her mum was homophobic and hated that I was making her daughter gay or whatever. So it kind of worked out that we had to do the deed in public places. We went on a date to the mall together and she tried to get me to go down on her in the family bathroom. I was too anxious and people kept knocking really hard on the door. When we came out, there was like a line of people going around the corner. Didn't realize it was fricking Black Friday. We pretended like I was sick and had been throwing up in there, I was 16 and my anxiety disorder was much more intense, so it wasn't far from the truth. But gosh darn, never again. An entire crowd of judgmental, teed-off people staring at you will kill a kink for good. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, or if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out Easy Mode. If you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Everything linked in the description.